Hey guys, we are live. It's Jason with Kentucky Sustainable Living. I've got Toolman Tim here tonight. Shelly is out of town and couldn't make it, so she's trusting me to hold the fort down. And she told me and Tim not to get too rowdy tonight. So, Tim, I'm glad to have you on tonight. And for anybody that doesn't know who Tim is, Tim, give us the rundown version of who Toolman Tim is and how you got here.
Sure, man. Well, oh boy, that's I'll give you I try to give you the 5 minute story there, but my wife and I we dug ourselves into a big hole many years ago. Worked thought we'd worked ourselves out of it, didn't at all. Hopped on a plane, flew 5,000 kilometers. That's 3,500 miles in freedom units for everybody. Went to Alberta. I thought we'd finally found our dream jobs working in the oil patch. Oil collapsed. So from that point on, I started a business called All Seasons Maintenance, which was a handyman business. And we found our true calling in entrepreneurship. It wasn't easy, didn't happen overnight, but we started that business. Then we parlayed that into a single daycare. And in the meantime, I launched a YouTube channel called Toolman Tim's Workshop, where I, talk about tools, talk about prepping, talk about entrepreneurship. And then we took that one daycare, and we're presently in the realm of 3 daycares, which is kind of building our self-reliance independence. And in the meantime, we bought some land down in Tennessee for a little bit of freedom. And when I have the ability, I travel through the states and go down and speak at different events. And that's what brings me here, because I do believe, no, I'm just kidding. I'll be at Kentucky Sustainable Living with a whole bunch of great friends of mine, and we're going to be there hanging out, chilling, chatting, and speaking.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I counted down the days. It's 15, I think 15 days until the festival, and I was looking and I was like, crap, I've got so much stuff left to do. And my wife was like, yeah, you've got a whole lot of stuff. She was like, good luck getting your shop cleaned up for Friday night. So,
dude, don't feel bad. We've been out of town all week. I've been working on, so we're in the process of opening a really big daycare up here. That'll be our 3rd. So I've been out of town all week in a hotel with the missus, and we've been working all day and then just chill out here in the evening. But I still have a bathroom reno to finish in a rental before I leave. And I'm leaving for what's going to be essentially a 7-week road trip, 5 events during that time. So I got to have all my ducks in a row. And of course, I went and got a new truck here just the other day. And so you know how you get comfortable with a vehicle, you get your whole loadout kit, you got everything you need.
Oh yeah.
Well, all that came out so that I didn't actually leave anything behind. So now I got to put anyway. Just putting it all back together. So it's fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to it. But it's what do we got? I think I'm hitting the road on the 19th of March.
Oh yeah, and talking about the trucks, I mean, you live out of your truck. I mean, you're doing contracting stuff. You've got tons of stuff in there, and My wife moved my truck the other day, and she came back in. She goes, "Why does your truck look like that?" I'm like, "Because all my tools are in there," and I'm like, "I live out of that truck." I'm like, I've got to have all that stuff. And she was like, "Your truck is disgusting." And I'm like, "But it's a work vehicle." I mean,
right.
it honestly, my truck is no different than my miter saw. It's a tool I use to make money. And when that miter saw is trashed out, I go buy another one.
Right. And
I mean, you take care of it, but you don't just leave your miter saw sitting out in the rain and stuff like that. But it's like, I'm not going to wash this thing every stinking day and stuff like that. It's just a tool.
That with me, I do property management. It's my big thing now. So I'm constantly, I'll have parts and pieces in the back seat, 2 or 3, I got my plumbing tool bag, my regular tool bag, 3 or 4 cordless tools. It'll all be in there.
Yeah.
And why would you waste? I mean, now, if you're parking in a shady neighborhood or something, well, that's different. But why would you waste, half hour, 45 minutes of your time every single day to unload everything and put it all away when you're just going to use it the next day?
Oh yeah, no doubt. So it is. I tell you, the best thing that I ever did, I bought a 7x14 enclosed trailer, and
oh yeah,
I built, and I'll show you when you come down. I built cabinets all in it and everything, and I can put everything. And then I've got those rolling totes or the rolling toolboxes, like the Sears ones, the Craftsman ones.
Yeah.
and I've got one for paint, one for tile, and one for drywall. So if I know I'm gonna go patch some drywall stuff, I can just grab it. It's watertight, throw it in the bed of the truck, and then I don't have to pull that trailer around everywhere.
That it's funny. Like I said, I don't get into as much technical stuff as you, but couple of years ago, I realized that it was time. Like I picked up a lot of specialty electrical parts, tools, a lot of specialty plumbing tools. And so all of a sudden it made sense to have a special tool bag for each one of those things. And, it's something simple. And, a lot of people who aren't middle-aged men might not get it, but having that organized tool bag with a grab and go, exactly what you need with the stuff in there, man, that makes life so much easier.
Oh yeah. Let's go. We got Pippin. I want to pull these up real quick. Half Bubble Off Plum. Jeanette is here, and
Nice.
Chase Peoples. Chuck will be in shortly if Chase is here. And Spags showed up. So
Spags Unfiltered.
Guys, I'm glad to have all of y'all in chat. I appreciate it a bunch. Tim, let's run in. You're going to talk about poverty mindset. Talk a little bit about that and how you came to get that topic and stuff. I mean, I've listened to it. I think I've listened to it 2 or 3 times at different places, and there's always another nugget that I get in there. And just tell us kind of how you came up with that and how it's done in your life.
Yeah, man. And it's funny because if you don't sit down and look back to where you came from, you end up thinking you've never made any progress. It's real easy to kind of get stuck in okay, I'm here, this is where I'm at, and feel like I haven't really done a whole lot. But then you look back, kind of rewind 15, 20 years from where you started, and all of a sudden you realize, man, I wasn't even the same person, But I'll give you an example. So today actually it was kind of cool. And I thought I'm going to share this tonight on the show. I got a text or a Facebook message from a guy that I've known. I used to work with him 7-8 years ago. And we worked at the farm supply store. It was the one time I panicked while I was self-employed and thought, I can't do this. I got to go back to work for the man. So I went back for a little while, and he said, hey, Tim, I just saw your new truck and I wanted to say congratulations. He says, you've sure come a long way from that F-150 that you spray foamed to fill the rust holes and then put rock guard over top of it. And, I had blocked that completely out. And his final words in that message were, good for you. And for anybody that's heard the poverty mindset chat that I've done, there's really 2 types of folks out there. There's the good for you folks, and there's the must be nice folks. And I told the young guy, because he's only 24, 25. And I told him, I said, you, brother, are going to be successful, because everybody that I've run into traveling across the continent over the last few years, chatting with people, the one sure sign of somebody that's going to find success is that they get excited for other people's success. And the folks that every time they see somebody do something really good, they say, oh, must be nice. Or, well, if we weren't in the middle of late stage capitalism, we might be able to do something. Or if I wasn't born on the wrong side of the tracks, we might be able to do something, and it's true through and through. And this, I'm not sitting here. That's what everybody thinks, oh yeah, well, again, must be nice. Tim can sit there and explain it. They own a bunch of businesses. Well, I'm going to tell you something. It was not that long ago that me and the missus lived in a situation with 5 kids where the only real rules we had were the power couldn't get shut off and the kids always had toilet paper and food. That was the bare minimum that we could do. And it was a fair bit self-inflicted. I mean, life always throws you curveballs, but you get to choose, And for us, we grew up in an area, or at least I did, and Becky moved into the area, and she came from another area as well, where the poverty mindset, we didn't even know that's what it was, because it was just the mindset. It was just the way it was. Folks would say, you're never going to do anything with your life. The best you're going to get is that $13.50 an hour job that works 60 hours a week, because that's just the way it is here, Tim. Everybody in this town just struggles. Nobody ever makes any money. Everybody just gets by. Everybody's always one paycheck away from, Nova Scotia Power turning the lights off on you. And we decided we didn't want to do that. But it took a long time, because when you're in this kind of echo chamber where everybody's hitting you over the head constantly saying, Tim, this is the way it is. Tim, this is how it needs to be. You can't do any better than that. Man, it's damn hard to get out of it. And there's no one thing that we point at that kind of changed our minds over the years, but it was kind of a gradual thing. It was a wake up over a long period of time where we're like, it's got to be better. That's really what it came down to for us, was it's just got to be a little bit better. And so we started, we're like, okay, well, what do we do? So I left my job, started a new job. And eventually, like I said, I hopped on a plane, had to borrow half the money for the plane ticket to fly all the way across the country and try something new. And we did. We went to the oil patch, and it worked for a bit until the price of oil absolutely went boom right down, but really, and everybody asked, okay, well, what is it? What sums up the poverty mindset? And last year, when I was chatting about this at the Living Free in Tennessee Spring Workshop, Becky went into the gas station to get some pop or water or something for the event later in that day. And she come out and she's like, you're not going to believe it. And I'm like, what? She goes, the lady behind the counter, we got talking. She said, this guy comes in here all the time with that BMW. She goes, it must be nice. And just absolute disdain, and here's the thing. If you believe that you're going to do great things, or if you believe you're going to do awful things, you're right. And that's what it comes down to. And it isn't as simple as changing your mind, but sure as shit, that's the first step.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I see lots of those people. It's like, it must be nice. It must be nice. Or, they see it as, yeah, you were talking about, you just got a brand new truck. I guarantee you people are like, well, it must be nice, to have that and be able to do that. And the part of the problem is too, people will look at their beginning and look at your middle, and then they're just like, how can I ever get there? They don't see the blood, sweat, and the tears and the long nights and everything like that you put in there.
Dude, there was one time that I was driving all I can remember, it was a white Dodge Grand Caravan that was probably 3 years past its expected lifespan. I couldn't afford to fix the brakes. I drove that thing until the brake rotor snapped right in half. I'm just like, we had a little, I don't even know what it was, some sort of foreign compact van I had one time. The brakes went on it, and I still drove it. You would just kind of ease it in and then kind of shift into neutral and then into park. You had to, right? And yeah, it is nice once things start going your way, and folks will be like, okay, guess what? It must be, things just blew up for you, an overnight success when you look at YouTube channels, and like you said, Jason, and that's the way my wife right now building this new daycare has spent, it would be scary to know how many nights away from home she has stayed to build this new business of ours, to create something out of nothing. And again, and that's the cool thing about the whole idea of the poverty mindset. And I do another presentation called Baby Steps, all about entrepreneurship. And all it is about making progress. It's about looking at your station in life right now and saying, okay, it needs to get better. How do I do it? And the cool thing is you're not going to fix it all tonight. You're not going to fix it all. And if you want to, you might as well, you got about as much chance as going out and buying a lottery ticket and winning the money. You're better off. You need to focus on that 1% better every day and say, okay, well, where can I improve this? And a lot of times for me and for most folks, it seems to be some sort of side hustle or entrepreneurial venture, because once you get a little taste of that, going back to all the craziness of 2020 through 2022, the great thing about having a business was we get to choose. And I think you and I have talked about this before in the past. You get to choose where you went. You get to choose where you shopped. You get to choose who you worked for.
Yeah.
Sure, there was a little bit of, you still had to jump through some hoops here and there. But for the most part, having that entrepreneurial venture meant I don't really have to worry about all that other craziness that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. I'm still recovering and got a cough tonight.
That's
So,
all right, man.
but yeah, I mean, it is, and it lets you have a lot of freedom. And there's just too many people that are just stuck in that. And I see it, like I said, I do see it all the time. And I think it's a great chat. And I wish more people would be their own entrepreneurs and stuff like that instead of working for the man. It's got its good and its bad, just like we were talking a minute before. I was sick the last part of the week and then first part of this week, and it's your own. It's good and bad. You're your own boss, but if you're not working, you're not making any money. So, and it all just kind of depends. It goes with the flow. I had electricians and stuff working for me, so everything wasn't a total loss on that. So, but yeah, the side hustle. I would implore everybody. Excuse me, if they're working for somebody, get a side hustle. I mean, there's tons of stuff that you can do to bring in extra money. I mean, YouTube's not paying any bills for me yet or anything, but if you really work at it and go, I mean, you can grow a channel. I mean, you Tim, you've grown your channel now. You're doing full-time content creation, aren't you?
I am. I mean, we keep a few irons in the fire, and again, that's part of building the life you want to live. And redundancy, right? Is, I've got my property management, I've got my YouTube channel, and my wife has the daycares. And so those three pillars are what kind of holds us up. And, we wouldn't want to lose any one of them, but losing one of them isn't going to be a deal breaker for any of them. Right. So that's kind of where we came from. And another kind of cool, I tell you, I've been right full of stories lately, but we had a nice brand new fenced in area put in for an outdoor playground at the daycare. And I know it's going to be hard to believe, but we still got a lot of that white stuff here on the ground because I live kind of close to Santa Claus, and we needed to start emptying out the storage room for our big inspection and start moving all of the outdoor toys out to the area. Well, there's a foot of snow in there. So Becky posted online right quick, like looking for somebody to come and blow that snow because we're out of town and I sold most of my gear last year. This dude showed up within an hour. He was so hungry for work. He had this, I think his business was called Three Guys and a Small Fry or something like that. Turned out he was from the same province as me, which is about, 3,500 miles away. He'd moved here 20 years ago, been in the oil patch. And a year ago, he was getting kind of antsy. He's like, I got some time off in the evening, some weekends. I'm not loving my job. So he started a business, a handyman business. And his first thing was about what I did, picking up dog poop when the ice melted. And within 12 months, the dude got so busy. He's got 11 guys working for him now. But within a year, he walked away from working in the oil patch. And for anybody who knows, that's some of the best paying, low skill jobs you can find on the continent right now. And he walked away from that to start to go full time on the business. And I love it, man. Those kind of stories get me so excited because I could sit and talk to other people about getting them successful all day, every day, man.
Oh yeah. And I'm grateful when people do that. I mean, I'm cheering them on. Go, do this. Several years ago, I had a boy, he was 17 and he was working for me in the summer. And this is when we were still doing a lot of concrete work and stuff like that. He was helping me. And he said, I want to go to the vocational school or the technical college, whatever they call it. He says, I want to do industrial maintenance. And I'm like, okay. I was like, dude, you can do it. And here, industrial maintenance guys doing stuff in the factories get paid pretty stinking good. And he went ahead. Summer was over. He helped me a little bit during school and stuff like that. He graduated and he called me and he was like, hey, the Magna, which is Bowling Green Metal Forming, they do truck chassis, the Ford truck chassis and stuff.
Okay.
He said they came to school for a job fair. They offered him a job on the spot, paying for his school. I think he was going to go to school for 2 or 3 years and work for them. The kid was like, I can get as many hours as I want to. They're paying for my school. And I think they started him off at like $22 or $23 an hour as an 18-year-old kid.
Dude, that's like 75 Canadian. No, not quite, but no, that's all good for him.
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I was ecstatic. I'm like, that's awesome. And I set him down and I was like, hey, I said, you still live with your parents. I said, you need to live with your parents while you're going to school. And I said, you've got a nice truck. There's nothing wrong with your truck. I said, do not go buy a brand new $70,000 truck. I'm like, drive the truck you've got, bankroll as much money as you can. And I said, when you get out of school, I said, you can probably put half down on a stinking house if you do it right. So, and that's exactly what he's doing now. So, but I was super excited for him. I'm like, you've got to start right there.
Haven't you, I mean, between you and I, haven't you heard everybody say how it's impossible for homeownership for the youngins nowadays?
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're like, yeah, they're never going to own a house or anything like that. Well, part of the problem is that they want the instant gratification too.
Sure.
So they've got to have it right now. And they compare themselves to their parents. You know,
right.
Mom and dad have a $750,000 house. Why can't we have a $750,000 house right now?
Right. And it don't, I mean, there was a girl I worked with at Dairy Queen. So for everybody, if you want to know, I finished university, 4 years university. And my first job after university was night manager at Dairy Queen. So, pretty prestigious. I didn't mind it at all. But anyway, I worked with a girl there. Her father was a carpenter. And now, again, I'm not saying you can do this today, but they didn't have a pot to piss in, and they wanted to build a house. So they had enough money for the foundation. They put like a below ground foundation in the basement. They put a floor on top of it. They lived in that basement for 10 years before they scrounged up enough money to build the rest of the house. Now, of course, some people, the poverty mindset would look at that and say, well, you can't do that today. There's building codes. Well, no, you might be right. But you know what you can do? You could move to a small town. You could buy a dilapidated house that's just barely standing for, right now. For instance, Becky and I bought 2 rental properties for not much more than $20,000. Now, you could do that. You could go buy yourself an old dilapidated house that maybe isn't in Toronto, Vancouver, Chicago, New York, wherever it happens to be, fix it up and live in it for a while, sell it, and then buy something else. Like you said, again, it's that you got to have a long term. And again, there it is. The poverty mindset is an instant gratification, and abundance mindset is, I'll wait a little while. Let's see what I can do to make our life better now, but set us up to make it way better down the road.
Oh yeah. And that's the problem with the younger people. It's all instant gratification, and they want to buy their Starbucks and have all this stuff. And, and some of it I don't understand. One thing I don't understand is how some of these kids are running around in $100,000 trucks right now. I'm like, what in the world? Mom and dad must be paying for all that stuff, I guess. So,
but when I first, again, so 10 years ago, this past January, I hopped on the plane, came out here. And the first thing I noticed was, here you go. Guys that were almost half my, not quite half my age then, they'd be half my age today. They were 21, 22 years old. Most of them owned a home, had a mortgage on a house, and most of them had a financed vehicle because they were making $100,000 a year out of school working in the oil patch.
Yeah.
The problem is that one dude I worked with, he went out and he bought this beautiful Ford truck before he financed it, before he even got it off the lot. He had them put a Mustang engine in it, a whole bunch of different things. It was, anyway, the day I start working with him, his girlfriend calls and she says, the truck's missing. He's like, what do you mean the truck's missing? She goes, it's missing. And about a half hour later, he gets a phone call from his dealership or from his finance company. They're like, yeah, we came and took your truck. And he's like, well, it must be a price. He hadn't made payments in 3 or 4 months and he was making $100,000. So just because you're making the money doesn't mean you get your head in the right spot, right?
Oh yeah. That's crazy. I don't know. That's amazing. That's what Mike's saying. Said, Tim, that's exactly what we did with our house. Almost a complete redo on 2.5 acres.
Right.
Mike's in KSL with us. He's one of the members, and they bought a house. They're right at about an hour away from us. So I know Mike's doing a bunch of work and redoing that house. And that's the thing. I tell you, I would, in Bowling Green, you can't really flip houses. It's kind of funny. Everybody buys. There's like 2 little areas in Bowling Green that you can buy a house and flip it. Okay. And if you're out of those areas, everybody buys new houses. which is kind of weird.
But that's about knowing the market, right?
Yeah.
Like with us. So we basically what we ended up doing was we bought an old dilapidated house that had 2 rental units in it, and they threw in a mobile home for free because it's not impossible to buy and sell a mobile home, but when the bank's involved with anything, it is pretty much impossible. But we didn't finance it. We ended up paying for it. So the mobile home had been rented, but I mean, it needed a lot of TLC. So I think about over a 3-month period, kind of between 2 trips to the States, I renovated the entire thing. New flooring. I raised the bathroom floor up 4 inches so that all the plumbing would be in between the floors and insulated because, again, mobile homes, -40, Alberta, it sucks, right? But now we get a pretty good rent for that simply by, paint, new flooring, a brand new renovated bathroom, and it was a bunch of sweat equity. But in the end, it paid for itself. And you have to think outside the box. Our house is the same way right now. We bought this house, and man, it was I remember. So I've done 4 years of YouTube review videos, and one of the first, not the first, but within the first year, I bought this brand new dryer vent. The thing's cool; it's still going strong, and it's like an inverted dryer vent so that it never clogs up. And I installed it, dude. My house when I installed that was an old wood siding house that the paint was completely peeling off of, because at the moment that's what we could afford. And I still remember the comment. Somebody's like, yep, $50 dryer vent on a $12 house. Anyway, you should see it now because 2 years later, I decided that I was going to re-side the entire house. I had never done vinyl siding in my life. And I did the whole damn thing from front to back, sides, eaves, everything. And 1 step at a time, I just kept learning and learning. So this year, we also have something in our house called Teenage Daughters. I don't know if anybody else is familiar with those interesting beasts, but we have twins. And we have 2 bathrooms, but really only 1 main bathroom on the main floor. So as you can imagine, our shortage right now is bathroom. So as soon as I get back from my 6 to 7 week road trip, I'm going to build an addition on the house of a 12 to 14 by 14 bathroom. It's going to be an ensuite kind of bathroom to our bedroom, and it's going to make mama a happy lady because, I could hire someone else to do it. There's a few skills in there that I'm going to have to level up on for me, but again, baby step, baby step, baby step all along the way. I've learned all the different things, and now it's time to put it together and build a little addition on the house.
That'll be cool. Now, are you going to do the foundation yourself?
Yeah, I am. I'm going to use ICF, I think. And I've worked with it, but never completely. But yeah, I am. I've got guys that'll bring me the cement, but yeah, I'm going to totally learn how to do it.
Yeah, because I was going to say, if you're just doing a crawl space foundation up there, it's got to be like 4 feet or something, isn't it?
Technically, technically our frost line is 10 feet here. So I looked at putting here's another thing. We are in, so my area of Alberta is doing a little better than, do you know Chris Dixon? Have you ever seen him?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good buddy of mine. He's a fellow Albertan. He lives about 4 hours south of me. And they are in the middle of one of the worst droughts that they have seen in years. I mean, it has been so dry. And so we're getting the kind of a touch of it too. So in the meantime, while I'm building that piece on, I'm also going to put underground water storage. And I called the place in Edmonton that sells the tanks, and they said the top of it needs to be 10 feet below the ground so it won't freeze.
Jeez, that's crazy. So, because I've seen them do it and everything, and it's like you darn near almost to do a basement, as opposed to a crawl space and everything.
And I may do that anyway, just simply to get down that far,
Yeah.
and use it for storage. I don't know. Haven't decided completely what I'm going to do, but it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it, and it's a nice high roof, so I can just build a nice sloped roof just below the existing eave, so I don't have to tie into the roof, which makes me happy, just that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt. Well, shoot, all we have to do, like 18 inches for a footing here. I mean, and you're golden. I mean, I did my water line when I dug a water line coming into my house, I put it 36 inches just because I could.
Sure.
So, but I mean, most of the time you're looking like 18 inches, something like that. And then like our footings here, like a footing for a 1-story house, you only have deep footing. So it's only got to be 8 inches thick. And it's kind of crazy. So
I love it. I don't know. For a feller that, and I'm not kidding. I mean, I couldn't change my own oil. I barely knew how to put gas in a weed eater back in the day. Like back when Becky and I first started dating and got married, I was but all I'd ever done was maybe refinish a dresser, because I lived on my own and I was like, I need something to do. So I tried that. Well, over the years, I learned how to install insert windows from the inside of a second-story building, learn how to patch roofs, there's no end to what you can learn when you're excited. And again, I always said abject poverty is a great motivator. And there's that meme that goes around, that somebody says, how do you know so many things? Oh, easy. I grew up poor. You just have to, right? When you have to learn something and, your livelihood or the improvement of your life kind of falls upon that, you just learn it. Failure isn't an option, right? And I got another presentation coming up at Self-Reliance Festival that's going to be basically, that's the title, Failure Isn't an Option. And what I mean by that is the only time you fail is when you quit. So if you give up on something, okay, great. But when you're building a business, building content creation, building the life you want to live, all it really is, okay, I tried this door, it didn't work. Well, let's try the next door. And keep trying doors until it opens. You go through and then you get 6 more doors to try and then knock on each one until you find the one that opens. And it's just persistence. And then you get a little faster each time you try to improve life because you're like, oh yeah, I remember for whatever reason I could hear something on the other side of the door or the door, you get better at figuring out what the right door is.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as me learning how to do all this stuff, I had my dad that taught me a ton of the stuff growing up and everything. Because my dad fixed everything at the house. I mean, my parents had the money to pay somebody to do it, but my dad was one of those guys that it's like, we're going to fix it. We're not calling somebody, it wasn't, don't call the guy. Dad was the guy. So I learned a bunch of stuff that way. And then just going, when I went to college and learned some of it. And then a lot of it was just doing the stuff, and people would ask you to do stuff, and you're like, yeah, sure, I do that stuff all the time. And you just wing it and figure out how to do it. And I mean, I remember first time, well, I had sprayed a little bit of paint before, as far as like with an airless sprayer, painting ceilings and stuff like that. We did a little bit of it when I was working for another guy. I had a customer call me. They wanted 8,000 square feet of ceiling painted in a warehouse. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, we do that stuff all the time. That's no big deal. And I'm sweating it going, man, I got to figure out how to do all this. But, hey, we figured it out. Everything was good to go and made a buku of money on that deal.
I love it. The guy I talked to today that started his own handyman business a year ago, I asked him, I said, are you cleaning windows yet? And he goes, no, should I be? I said, yes. I used to make $100 an hour doing it, but the same story. When a lady called me one time, she's like, do you clean windows? And I thought, yes, I do. And I hadn't. I mean, people might think cleaning windows is easy, but cleaning a window that meets the approval of, a little old lady who lives in the house all by herself, that's a whole different story. You got to practice. And so I did. I spent 3, 4, 5 days, whatever it was, cleaning my big picture window to get good at it. And to the point where I ended up, that was one of my big money makers eventually, was practicing but taking the chance, like you said. And, because a lot of times and this goes back to the poverty mindset too. A lot of times we're our own worst enemy. That negative self-talk that you have in your head, again, like residing the house. I said out loud to my wife, I'm like, there's no way I can do that. And thank God she's around, because she's like, honey, you could really do that. And you could do it easily. And she was right. In a summer was 7 weeks or whatever it took, I was able to do it. But sometimes we just kind of get caught in our own, repetitive thought loop where we think, yeah, I can't do that. So why would I even try? And then when you try it, you surprise yourself, and then you kind of get on a roll.
Yep. The Homestead twins hope to get a new barn. 24 by 40 barn started this year. And then they just finished a 14 by 32 lean-to over the sawmill.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's really a lean-to is half a building. So all you got to do is double it, and now you get yourself a building. So you're all set.
Oh yeah, and part of the stuff too. Like I work alone 90% of the time, and learning how to do stuff on your own. I've got a 30 by 50 shop that I'm sitting in now that we built when I built the house, but I wanted a barn on the back. So we did a 16 by 50 barn, just extended the shop out, and I did it. And I did probably 90% of it myself. I mean, setting 6x6 posts by myself and everything, it sucked, but I did it and figured out how to do it by myself. So
I remember a carpenter. He was missing his left thumb. I used to work with him, he used to come into Home Hardware all the time. His name was Gene Dion, an old French dude. And I asked him, I said, like, you work by yourself? And he said, no. I said, most of the time? He said, no, all the time. I said, how do you put 12-foot drywall on a ceiling, or even 8-foot? And he goes, I promise you, when you're a half an hour from town and you are 100% self-employed with nobody else, you will figure out how to do it. You just have to look around. You have to mess around a while, and you have to fail. But eventually, if you're persistent enough with that kind of stuff, you're going to figure out how to do it. Whether it's a really heavy item. So, most people, when they realize if you got to load something on a truck, you only ever have to lift half of it at a time. If you're careful, lean it on the tailgate, let it support it, and then lift the other half, and then you can use leverage. Or I've got this one sled thing that I got from a company. It looks like a crazy carpet. And I know you don't get a lot of snow down there, so maybe you don't know what, snow sleds are, but
yeah,
you can put these heavy loads on it and you can pull it around. So it's all, man, it's just about thinking about the problem for a while and coming up with a solution, and maybe trying a few things that don't work first.
Oh yeah. I want one of those airbag things. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have.
I want one of those. I'm like, that would be stinking awesome.
Those things are sexy. I've never even bothered to price them because I know, they got to be, yeah.
If I moved more stuff like that, I would probably buy one. But
if I'd have stayed into the handyman business, I probably would have too, because I don't, the old back isn't as good as it used to be. And a faller doesn't rebound like you used to either. And man, I love those things. You put that, I've watched them. They put a washing machine. Like, if anybody out there's never moved a front load washing machine, they are one of the heaviest items you're ever going to touch. Yep. And they put one of them on there, they hit that button and they just walk it through doors. I mean, Skane's girl says work smarter, not harder. And that is 100%.
Yep. Well, yeah, talking about working by yourself, I was hanging 2-piece crown the other day in a kitchen. And I mean, we're running 16-foot sticks of it and everything. And my uncle, all he ever did in his whole life was carpentry and cabinets. And I had him, I'm like, Uncle Lee, I want to know how you do crown molding and make it look so good. So he showed me, he took me in one afternoon and we hung crown molding, and he showed me all the tips and tricks on crown. And but one of the things, he would take finish nails and drive them ever so often in the studs to hang a full piece. And you slid that thing up there, and then it was hanging on those finish nails, sitting there so you could hold one end and get it going. And the rest of it was hanging on with the finish nails that were nailed in there. And it turns it into a one-man job.
Hey, two things out of that. One, number one, I had never done metal roofing before. So I knew a guy who was putting metal siding and metal roofing on a building. I said, hey, could I volunteer with you for a day or two? He goes, well, I'll pay you, but sure. So that was in my mind, free. I actually got paid to learn it. So then I built a covered deck, 16 by 24 covered deck out back of my place. And again, that was the first time I'd ever laid metal roofing. But before that, I ended up, so one of the main carrying beams is a laminated 2x12. And I mean, one 2x12 is heavy. Yep. Two 2x12s is atrocious. But the other thing is having to get them up there, so the main beam was 14 feet high. It had to be up to. And so again, I used 2 ladders and I built a little framing bracket for the first one. I put it up in there and then I walked the next one up and then I screwed it into place. But if you don't get yourself in that situation, well, you're never going to figure out how to do it. And folks wonder all the time. And that's why I love teaching young kids and even just guys that are in the business but younger than me, because all this stuff, man, it wasn't stuff I was taught. I'm not saying my dad wouldn't teach me. I just in my early 20s and younger, I thought I knew everything. Then I had to go back and relearn it from dad. But
Oh yeah.
I love teaching people all these tips and tricks, man.
Oh yeah. We put in. We had a job they wanted. It was above the garage, and they wanted to finish the attic space above the garage. So I got to look, and I'm like, it's 2x8 ceiling joist in there. They're not going to be. It's fine for a ceiling joist, but it wasn't going to support. So I called the lumber yard and was like, hey, this is what we got. He's like, well, you got to put, I think it's a 20-inch LVL, 20-inch tall LVL, double LVL. We had to screw it together by their specs and put it in, and it was spanning like 24 feet.
Oh.
That thing was over 600 pounds once we screwed it together, and it was me and my brother, and I'm like, there ain't no way we're going to get this thing up. And I'm like, we ended up renting a duck jack. It's the HVAC guys use it, and it's to lift ductwork up in commercial buildings.
Yeah, okay.
And the thing was rated for like 1,200 pounds. I'm like, shoot, we're golden. And it's a low rise, so you can go real close to the ceiling. We slid that thing on there and started cranking the handle up on it and got it slid in place. I'm like, shoot, this is easy right here. So I think it's $100 to rent that thing for the day. I'm like, that was well worth $100 right there.
I don't know how much gear over the years that I've rented. And folks don't always think about that. You know, the first mind they go to is, can I hire someone to do it? Or can I go buy some gear? But I want to tell you, something that's worth doing is having a conversation with your local rental place and see what kind of gear they have. Yeah. Because, you know, you can number one, take the rental gear and go hire yourself out for a day and make a bunch of money. But other than that, like you said, what would it have cost to bring a crew? Just say, for instance, not that you would do this, but, you know, call up a local contractor and say, hey, I need 3 guys to come over and lift this up into place for me. I bet you it'd be a heck of a lot more than $100 for a jack rental.
Shoot, yeah. That, and I'll tell you another thing that's worth its weight in gold is a drywall jack. A drywall lift.
I got to get one of them someday.
I want to buy one. Mike Shepard, if he's still in the chat, Mike helped me. He's one of my buddies in here. We hung the whole ceiling in this kitchen we were working on. Me and him did it, hanging 12-foot sheets like nobody's business. I mean, you throw the thing on there, twist it around flat, and crank it up, slide it into place, and crank it and lock it, and then you just go to town screwing it off. And I'm like, this is a no-brainer for sure.
I love that. I've eyed them up, but you know what? The easiest way I've stayed away from that is just not doing drywall, if I can help it.
I wind up doing so much drywall, it's ridiculous. So that, and I tell you, I've got a hotel in town. It's got the convention center, and yeah, Mike said it was fun. The worst part was bringing all the stinking sheets in the house. That was the worst part of all of it.
Oh, that's where you hire a couple of youngins to bring it in. But problem is, they probably put holes in your walls, right? So.
Oh yeah. Now the drywall delivery places here that just handle drywall, for an extra $1 a board, they'll stock the house for you.
It could have been an extra. Yeah. Done and done. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah. Well, we had that attic space that we were redoing.
Yeah.
I called them. I'm like, I don't want to pack this stuff up the steps. And I called them, and they're like, yeah, it's extra $1 a board. I was like, cool. They came out with the boom truck, took the window out on the second story, slid everything through that window and set it. And I was like, that was worth the extra like $50. I'm like,
yes, sure.
So
I seen them doing that here in the city the other day. The same thing. There was a bunch of 12-foot drywall that was going in, and they just took the window out and zoom boomed it right in. And I was, oh man, that's beautiful. And again, you know, one of my rules to live by, well, the work smarter, not harder. And I'm a firm believer in taking 5 or 10 minutes, doing 5 or 10 minutes of work before you start something to save yourself hours afterwards. Like I'll watch people who aren't even comfortable backing their truck in. So they'll just pull into their driveway, and they might have to unload an entire truckload of, I don't know, cement or flooring. And if you were to take an extra 2 minutes and back in and have somebody put you right, I mean, why work harder than you have to? You know, back up to where you're unloading and do it, right?
Oh yeah, that. And I'll tell you, one of the things I hate the most about laying tile, and I lay a ton of tile, is packing the stinking tile in the house.
Oh,
I despise that, but I will pack all the stinking tile I need and bring it all in the house instead of having to go grab a box or two and then run back out and I will have all of it sitting there. And if I'm laying a floor, I'll space them out and kind of where I need them. And then you're down on your knees and you're just grabbing the tile and just laying it as you go.
I'm the exact same way. And I don't know, that's something you have to learn with time, but the kind of assembly line method to work, that's the most efficient way. So I had just the other day here, I've probably hung. So one thing when you're opening a new daycare that you got to know is you need shelves everywhere. Every room needs a shelf with cleaner and sanitizer and whatever on it. And every room needs a shelf with an allergy binder, a program binder, and it's required. So when you've got a building of 16, 17 rooms, that's easily 30 shelves. So what a lot of folks will do is, they'll go in and they'll put one shelf together and then they'll hang it and then they'll move over and do the next one. Well, the first thing I do is I go in every room and I figure out where the shelves are going to go, 64 inches high. And in every room, I put a mark on the wall at 64 inches all the way through. So when I'm done, I don't have to touch that tape measure again. Then the next thing I do is I got the pre-cut boards, and I put the shelf standards on them. Well, I set it up a little assembly line again, and I put zip, 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 and I put all the standards on the shelves before I even put them up. So then I ain't friggin' with screwing anything to a board. And then I go in and I set every shelf in every room where it goes. And then you just go up and then I put it on that line and I put one screw in. And then I put the level on it, second screw. And then those screws make the holes for my anchors. I pull it back out, anchors in, shelf in, I'm done. A minute per shelf. But if I did it individually, it'd probably be 10 or 15 minutes per shelf,
Oh, yeah. And now that's the way I did the house I live in now that I built. We've got I did an old kind of trim work on it. All my baseboards are 1x6 and 1x8, and my casing is all 1x4.
Nice.
And then we did, I've got plinth blocks at the bottom of the casing, and then 1x4 coming up. And then we did like the old headers above the doors.
Yep.
We've got a piece of bullnose, a flat bullnose. You've got a 1x6, and then you've got a small piece of crown that comes around with the returns. And I was like, this is going to be a pain in the butt building all these things in place. So after I put my plinth blocks in, ran my 1x4 casing up on all of it, I did all the doors that way. And then I came back through and measured everything, took my pencil, marked it above each door, made a list, set my sawhorses up, and I built every single door header right there on the sawhorses and numbered them, which one it was. And then I came through and just had to pop nails, set it up there, pop the nails in and go. And it took literally half the time to do it that way.
A little bit of work up front. Hey, I love it. To me, that makes me smile.
Oh yeah. And that's the way to do it. It's all about saving time. I had one boy, we did we were doing a shower, and in the center of the shower, this shower was 4 foot by 9 foot. So it was a stinking monster shower, and it was all symmetrical. So each side of the shower, each side had a shower head in it to where it shot in the center. And there was a band running up the middle. There was a herringbone marble, marble herringbone, small little bitty thing. And we had a little pencil detail on each side. So with with the herringbone, you got a little triangle when you run at the edge. We laid all that, and I had a younger boy helping me. I counted it up. I was like, we need like 120 of these things. And I cut one and made sure it would fit. And I said, cut me 119 more of these. And he was like, okay. So I was laying all the big stuff, and he was just sitting at the tile saw, just cutting these things out, and would set them over. And damn, that boy, out of like 120, I think he cut 4 or 5 that didn't fit just right. But I was like, yeah. And the kid was like 16 years old. I'm like, dude, he's got it. He's going to be something.
I like that. Because man, that is something. I'm guilty of that. It took me a lot of years to realize that when you mark a line on a board, that you can cut on the right, you can cut on the left, or you can cut right down the middle, and every one of them is a different thing. Oh yeah, that. And then if you run a skill saw left-handed, you need a left-hand cut skill saw. Well, now that's true too. But go ahead. I'm left-handed on the skill saw, and I always have to buy.
I fight it. And I fought it for years, and I never knew. I started framing with a guy, and he saw me cutting with my left hand, and he goes, I need to buy you a left-hand cut skill saw. And I was like, dude, you're jerking me around. And he's like, no, for real, they make a left-handed skill saw. And the dude liked me so much, he went and bought one. I was like, this is the bee's knees right here. So after that, I always buy. I've got right-handed skill saws, but most of the time I use a left-handed one.
I'm that way with firearms. I mean, I'm right-handed, but I shoot left hand on everything. And man, when you have one that's made for left, I mean, some are ambidextrous, some don't matter, but there's some when you've got one that, is made, it's such a treat because you're not like, looking over it or figure, oh yeah, it's great.
Yep. Oh yeah. So I need to buy, I bought a new Milwaukee skill saw a while back, and I've switched most everything is battery operated now. I need to buy the Milwaukee, the left-handed one. I just hadn't done it yet. So
that's my next upgrade for. I know you're red and black and I'm yellow and black, but that's okay.
I still like you.
What's that?
I still like you.
I like you too, and I tell everybody really it don't particularly matter what battery platform. It's just all about standardizing on one battery platform.
Yes.
And you can there's some ways around that, but to me that's what it is. And the very first DeWalt tool I ever got was an impact driver, and the second one was a circular saw, and it was a 6.5-inch one, and I liked it. And I still have that. That's my next up. I want to go to one of those nice big 7.25 ones that are like, oh man. Anyway, that's my next one, because it's funny how when you get something you're like, oh, this is great, and then eventually as you use it, it's kind of underpowered,
Yep. Hey, I will tell you, DeWalt makes the best miter saws.
Oh, I have a 7.25-inch cordless DeWalt miter saw. That thing, I'm like a little kid in a candy store every time I get to use it. There is just for all the years, I used to have a 12-inch, imagine a 12-inch corded. It was just some generic chop saw, miter saw. That thing must have weighed, about 830 pounds. Yep. And not just heavy, but awkward, and I hauled that everywhere, and I switched to a 7.25. Now, not for everybody is it going to work, but I'm telling you that 7.25 works for 95% of my cuts. And when it don't, I'll typically use a skill saw. But that thing, you just pick that up, go anywhere you want. The best thing is you don't have to look for a plug somewhere to plug the darn thing in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now I've got 2 12-inch DeWalt miter saws. I've got the slide, and then I've got the regular miter saw. And most of the time, I don't mind packing those things around, because if I'm going to set one of those up, I set it up for production stuff. I'm going to be cutting a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
With it. So, but I tell you, Milwaukee miter saws suck, in my opinion. That's the only reason I hadn't bought one. I just don't like them.
I will say, so since we're taking time to talk nice about each other's teams, I definitely prefer Milwaukee hand tools over DeWalt stuff.
Yeah.
Tape measures, hammers, screwdrivers, they do a really good job on the fit and finish and the quality. And probably my favorite hand tool is that Snapback. I think it's called Snapback, the little folding utility knife that Milwaukee makes. That has been, man, I got 2 or 3 of them. I've lost 1 or 2 over the years, but I've still got the original one, and they last. Oh, so good.
Oh yeah, that's what.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
That's what I carry. I carry those. That's my everyday work knife. So I've got like a dozen of them. I've got them in the truck, toolboxes, everywhere else. So, but I will tell you one reason I went with Milwaukee. We've got the local Milwaukee dealer here that takes care of the guys, and you literally everybody's like, well, you can't buy it from a local dealer because it's too expensive. I bought the other day. I bought the Milwaukee chainsaw, their full size chainsaw, and I called him because I'd already looked at Home Depot. He was $10 more than Home Depot, and I'm like, $10, and he takes care of the warranty and registration and everything for you. You go in there and hand the guy the money. He fills out all the card, does all that. I took one of my oscillating tools in. The blade got stuck on it, and I was like, man, I cannot get the stinking blade off this. And they work on them too if it's something small. Mm-hmm. He said, I'll take care of it. He said, I'll call you. like 3 or 4 days later, he called me. He said, "We got you fixed up." And I was like, "All right, cool." Went in, he handed me a box. And I'm like, "What's this?" He goes, "Milwaukee didn't feel like screwing with it, so they gave you a brand new tool."
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. And all I had to do was be like, "Hey, it's broke." And he took care of all of it for me.
You know, that for me, when I worked in a hardware building supply shop for about 7 years, and I saw the transition away from, we used to have travelers for just about every company out there, almost everyone. And during that 7 years, most of the companies kind of did away with it because it was an easy platform. Like, we don't need to have a salesman anymore. And the companies that still had salesmen were the ones you wanted to deal with. And for me, two reasons. Number one was the community, building relationships with people, because somebody you buy from, like the big box store, don't care, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever it is, they're just going to go by their, whatever, and whatever it says on paper, they're going to go by, and that's it. But when you got a guy who, you've helped put his kids through college or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to remember you, and he's way more likely to help you out or to be a little flexible in the warranty end of things than some faithless, nameless corporation. And even, like you said, even if you have to pay an extra $10 a tool, that's worth it if you're buying from a friend or somebody you want to support. But beyond that, it's worth it simply because you're going to be covered a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. And we buy most of our Milwaukee stuff from that guy now just because of all that. And when I was still in concrete, they supply most of the concrete masonry stuff around. And I mean, I was in there all the time.
They make some good, I've heard they do anyway. I haven't used it, but they make some good concrete tools, drills, and things like that.
Oh, yeah. Now, I do tell you, Bosch makes some of the best hammer drills, like the bigger, like SDS, the SDS and the SDS Max and stuff like that. I've got Bosch for that stuff.
They invented the SDS, didn't they?
I think so.
Because I remember the first time I saw one of them, and again, I was just a small town boy working at a small town hardware store, and this guy come from the city, and he wanted to buy SDS bits, and I looked at him, I was like, "What in the hell are you talking about?" Yeah. I had no idea, and he showed me, and I still didn't know. And they were putting, what were they putting? I think they were putting battens on this stucco building, but it was a thick old stucco because they were putting metal on it. Yep. And he showed me the two walls they had drilled. He said, "I drilled every hole on both those walls with one bit." And yep. I if I could have, I'd have called him every name in the book. There was no way I believed him, but man, they make some good tools.
Oh yeah. And the best thing is putting Tapcons. If you've got to put tons of Tapcons in,
yes, sir,
buy the SDS drill bits for it. And don't buy the Tapcon brand drill bits because they suck. But if you buy the Bosch ones, yeah, man. The Tapcon drill bits suck. I melt those things all the time.
Well, what they'll do is they'll put you go and buy like a 10-pack of Tapcon screws, for instance, right? And they'll put the bit in there, and the bit's good for about 7.5 drills if you're lucky, So it makes no sense. Oh well, actually, I do know why. Because they want you to go buy another bit from them, right?
Oh yeah. I always wind up. I never use the Tapcon bits. I go and buy the Bosch bits, and they seem to last infinitely longer. So, well, Tim, we're coming up on about an hour, and it's time to eat dinner, I think. And I know your wife is probably ready to eat. Well, what time? You're running behind. You're what, 2 hours behind?
I want 6 o'clock here.
Okay.
We had an early supper. We might have a little something afterwards. We kind of, I don't know, when we're doing this, working all day. Well, actually, I shouldn't talk like we worked a real hard day today. We worked a good day anyway. But our schedule gets all mixed up, But yeah, no, it's nice. I enjoy it. It's kind of our mini vacation. Our kids are old enough that they'll stay home for a few days with our adult kids across the street, so they do good. And so it's been pretty good. But I was gonna I'll bring it back around to the poverty mindset. As
look, Chuck's being funny. You want to get a
listen here, Mr. Chuck Peoples. We'll have a conversation when I get down there. So
yeah, Chuck's just jealous because nobody's talking about bandages.
That's true. I did text him the other day with a great idea for him and I to do some content together when I get down, and I was pretty excited about it. So I'm sure we'll knock it out when I get down there. But
oh yeah. Well, yeah, wrap it back around with the poverty mindset.
Yeah. So, I mean, like you said, I mean, you folks are nice enough to invite me down and chat about it, but I want to give one more example about the poverty mindset as we finish up. And so I'm sure you saw the interactions a few months ago, but something that I have found over the last few years is people will look at things and say, how much does it cost me? Or how much is it going to cost me? As opposed to how much am I going to earn back from it? Right. And I started this, this is probably a year and a half ago. And I was on a Tuesday live with John Willis and Nicole for Self-Reliance Festival. And 2 or 3 people were on there just to hammering on, oh, it's so expensive. I can't afford to go. Listen, I get it. I do. I understand everything's expensive and not everything's for you. Number one, I said, look, it is an investment. And so I called their bluff. 2 or 3 people on that live. I said, here's the deal. If you're willing to come and sit at my booth for 4 hours, I will pay for your admission and you can come and enjoy everything you're going to see there. So I believe it was 3 people that I made that offer to. Guess how many showed up at the event? So, and 0. For anybody on audio, that was a big fat 0. So here, 2-3 months ago, people were razzing on you pretty hard on the Facebook page. I don't know if you saw it or not.
Yeah.
And it's always, I'm not trying to be mean, but this time it was, well, that's a lot of money for somebody on a fixed income. Why don't you have a seniors rate? And I get it. I understand. I'm not trying to begrudge, but here's the thing. Once again, there were 2 different folks on there. And I said, I understand you're on a fixed income. I will buy your tickets if you're willing to sit for 4 hours on, at my booth just to talk to people, because it's going to be hard to believe, but I really like to walk around and talk to people at these events. I'm kind of shy, but that's kind of what I do. And so again, 2 folks I made that offer to. Guess how many have got back to me about it? None. So it's not about finding solutions. It's just about throwing up objections for folks. And until folks can see there's 7 or 8 or 10 different ways to get what you want, as opposed to the one way that's in your way, you're never going to get out of the poverty mindset. So if you're walking down that trail in the woods and you see a great big boulder there, 90% of the people are going to be like, it's a boulder. I'm going to turn around and I'll go somewhere else. But, those 10 people are going to end up being, the 10% of the folks are going to be, I can walk around it, I can walk over it, or I can blow the whole damn thing right out of the road and walk right through it. And until you can get your mind wrapped around, I can find solutions instead of finding obstacles, you ain't going to be ready.
Oh, yeah. And there's way too many people that, just want to be like, oh, well, that's an excuse. I can't afford to do it. But once you offer them the solution, they're just like, oh, well, it really shines through. And it's like, you really didn't want to do it.
No, you don't want to do it. You are just throwing up objections. Like John Willis said, you can't afford not to do it, because I'm just, if $100 or, whatever it happens to be at whatever event, it don't take very long. What you're going to learn at any one of these big events that go on, you're going to be able to apply that and figure out a quick way to make that money just like that. So that's what I get down to. And I get it. It's not an easy thing for Becky and I. It was a $300 plane ticket. We had to borrow $150 to fly out here. But you know what? That $150 we've turned into 5 businesses now. But it didn't happen overnight. It happened over a friggin' decade. So, and that's what and not to end on a sour note, what I want people to know is that you can do it. And it might look like you're in a really tight situation right now, but it might be just the one step or the one move you need to make by going to one of these events and making some connections that spurs you on to say, I'm ready. And then you get to be on here and talk to people.
Oh, yeah. And Tuesday morning, I had 2 radio interviews about the festival. They were supposed to be in person. I wake up Tuesday morning. I was supposed to be there at 8:15, woke up, got up about 6 o'clock, felt like absolute garbage, like having to run to the bathroom, throwing up, everything else. Like, head was lightheaded. I didn't know. I couldn't see straight, nothing. I got a hold of the radio station. I'm like, can we do it on the phone? And they're like, yeah, we can do it on the phone. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm going to throw up, and like throwing up, diarrhea, everything else. It's like everything was not wanting me to do this interview. And I'm like, I've got to suck it up and do these 2 5-minute interviews. If I can hold it together for that, everything's going to be good, because nobody else was going to do it for me. Shelly was out of town where she couldn't do it, and there's nobody else that could do it. I'm like, I have to suck it up and do it because, it's for the festival. So, I mean, I sucked it up and did it. And then after I got done with it, I went and threw up some more. So luckily I didn't throw up during the interview.
Proud of you, man. That's what we do, right? That's how you build the life you want to live.
Yeah.
You either make excuses or you sit on a radio phone call and mute it every time you got to puke in a bucket. Those are your options.
Yeah, exactly. Tim, where can everybody find you at?
Sure. The easiest place is YouTube. If you type Toolman Tim into YouTube, you'll find me. I'm the first one that comes up now, but Toolman Tim's workshop, you'll find it. If you're an audio podcast person, it's out there too. We have lives typically Thursday and Sunday evening, 6 p.m. Mountain Time every single week. And yeah, you want to come by. We got a Telegram group. But honestly, find me on YouTube, connect with me there, and we will. We'll go from there, man.
All right, cool. And hey, guys, the festival website is KentuckySustainableLiving.com. You can find out all the information for that. We've also got our charity dinner that is going to be Saturday night for Vets for Child Rescue. We've still got some slots open for Chuck's homestead medical class that he's doing the Friday before. And we've still got a few spots for the ham radio workshop the Friday before. But guys, check it out. Buy your tickets and use the coupon code email25 to get $10 off. And we will see y'all next Thursday. Good night, everybody.